Hey guys, this is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today we're going to be breaking down the Nike Metcon 7 and the Nike Metcon 6. I have received a ton of questions about the two, which to go with, which is better, and honestly, they both perform really well. They're just very different. And the 7 is very, very different from the 6, which is not what we got with the 5 and 6 when we just kind of got like a reworked upper and a reworked insole. So we're going to be breaking down a bunch of different aspects about these two shoes, and as always, I've time-stamped everything down below, so if you are interested in anything specific in nature, look at the description. You could jump around. We're all about efficiency here on the channel, but here are 5 major construction differences that I think are worth noting. All right, so construction difference number 1 is the heel to toe drop. So in the Nike Metcon 6, we had a 4mm heel to toe drop, and this has been pretty standard for all of the Metcon models to date. The Metcon 7 has a 7mm heel to toe drop, and on top of that, there is an insert that comes with the 5 and 6, which gives you an extra 8mm. So if you do like having a slightly higher heel in some of your exercises, that is an option you can use with the Metcon 5 and 6. In the Metcon 7, you do not get this additional insert. So the first difference is the heel to toe drop and the insert that comes along with the Metcon 6. The second difference is the midsole construction. So in the Metcon 7, we have the Nike React foam midsole throughout. So as you can see, this is the purple texture that you see throughout this shoe's construction. It's what gives this model a much more versatile and I think more dynamic feeling. It's a bit more forgiving for shorter runs and plyos compared to the 5 and 6. Now in the Metcon 6, we just have that rubber outsole that wraps up. In the Metcon 6, we don't really have a midsole at all. And the level of versatility or that versatile feeling that you get from the Metcon 6 is from the insole. And that brings us to construction difference number 3. So the insoles in each model are very different. So I've had some folks ask about the insole and if it's different in the 7 compared to the 6, and yes, it is very different. So in the 5 and 6, we had that dual textured insole here. So we have a slightly more stable foam back here on the heel and a slightly more compressive foam through the midfoot and forefoot. In the Metcon 7, we have a standard insole. So we don't have that insole that was kind of proprietary to the Nike Metcon 5 and 6. So standard insole here. And I'm assuming that's because with the Metcon 7's reworked midsole construction and how versatile that is, they don't really need to put this in because if we're going for max stability in a lift, for example, I don't want to really squat on something like this and Nike React foam. The fourth major difference is the overall upper construction. So we got a pretty much full-on overhaul in each of these shoes. So in the Metcon 6, we had this more like breathable mesh. There were synthetic layers on the outside, and that's what promoted that overall durability. And then in the Metcon 7, we have more of like a traditional mesh here, and we have a synthetic layer over the toe box, and we have this huge additional medial rope guard on the medial side of the foot. So this could be another difference, but I'm not gonna fully focus on it. I'm just gonna count it as part of the upper in the Metcon 7. The last major difference worth noting is the outsole construction. So in the Metcon 7, we have grooves up here in the forefoot. It's what gives this model a very much more maneuverable, easy to break in feel. We have a slightly concaved midfoot. So as you can see, there are little divots here throughout the midfoot, and the heel construction almost looks like a weightlifting shoe in the sense that they have this cutout here. You can see the hyperlift through, and that's very different compared to the Nike Metcon 6's outsole, which was a pretty standard rubber outsole, very stable, and it kept you grounded, but very different compared to the Nike Metcon 7s nonetheless. But now let's talk about a couple of other frequently asked questions about these two shoes. So the first question that I receive is which model is better for lifting? Which model is more stable? And to be quite honest, I think for the recreational lifter and CrossFitter, both models are pretty solid across the board for lifting. Now I will say, if you are looking for like max stability, the Metcon 6 does have a slight edge on the 7. Plus, you get this additional insert, which I think could be a really useful tool for folks who do want that slightly more elevated heel and they don't want to necessarily invest in weightlifting shoes. So when talking about lifting, both models are really good, but if I had to give like a slight edge to one of these, I would have to nudge you towards the Nike Metcon 6. Now, the next question is which model does offer a bit more versatility, which is better for plyos, more athletic training, agility, and that's where I'm gonna have to lean towards the Nike Metcon 7. I think with the addition of the Nike React foam midsole, this model feels much more athletic in nature compared to the 6, and it's way more forgiving when you're doing repetitive bounding activities. So if you're doing a lot of box jumps, if you're doing any form of unilateral jumping, etc., this is gonna be a better bet across the board compared to the 6. Not that the 6 is bad, so to speak, but you're gonna get a bit more action out of the Nike Metcon 7. All right, so then the third question is which model is better for running? And that's where I'm gonna say pump the brakes because neither of these models is really great for running. And honestly, The Nike Metcon 7 does have, again, a slight edge, and I think that's because we have that nice reworked outsole and midsole that does make the shoe a bit more accommodating and versatile in nature. But I would say cap your running bouts to about 800 meters in this model, and honestly, in the Nike Metcon 6, like if you're not a midfoot or forefoot striker, this is just not a comfortable shoe at all to run in. So what I usually recommend is capping your runs to 800 meters or less in either of these models, and honestly, for longer runs, look for a different shoe and then run in that shoe, and in that way you can prolong the life of your Metcon for your lifting and more focused, dedicated training sessions in the gym. All right, so the next 3 questions I'm going to talk about include how the Metcon 7 and Metcon 6 fit and feel compared to one another. So when it comes to overall sizing, I would say you should be safe going true to size in both of these models, and the length fits true in both models. They feel very similar in regard to their overall last construction, and I think that the Metcon 7 does have that slightly more narrow fitting Nike Metcon feel that we felt in pretty much all the Nike Metcon models to date. Another common question is, does the Nike Metcon 7 have heel slip? And this is where I think anytime you have a shoe with a very low profile boot design down here, so if you have to size up and you have a bunch of room in the heel and toe, you can be prone to heel slip in this model. However, I think if you get your sizing right and the shoe fits correctly, I don't think you're gonna have issues with heel slip at all. I have not run into any issues with heel slip in the shoe, nor did I run into any issues with the Metcon 6, but these shoes do fit very true on me, and I don't have a ton of room in the toe and heel to where I'm sliding around and even having the potential to have that heel pop out. Another common question is, does the Nike Metcon 7 squeak? Because the Metcon 6 does have a little bit of a squeak to it. And thus far, I have not had any issues with squeaking in the Nike Metcon 7. I think the reworked midsole and outsole do a really good job at preventing kind of that squeak we get in the Metcon 5 and 6 due to like their more firm, flat outsole construction. So the overall rubber on this Metcon 7's outsole isn't really prone to squeaking. Now you may run into issues here and there, but nothing has been like glaring like, holy shit, my Metcon 7 is so squeaky. So thus far, no issues to date. So I know we already talked differences of these shoes, but I do want to go through a full-on construction rundown with you guys so you guys can see everything that's different about these models. So starting up here at the toe, on the Metcon 6, we have a slightly thinner lip up here on the toe, so we have that extended outsole that wraps up. On the 7, we have a much thicker outsole wrap here. Kind of biases the big toe, which is pretty good for durability in my opinion, because for toe dragging movements, the big toe side of the upper is usually what we're going to start to see break down first. And then looking at the upper, we have a mesh on both of these. We have a much more like, I think, breathable mesh on the 6 in regard to like, it literally has holes through, you can see the socks through. And then in the 7, still breathable, but it's a bit more reworked in like this like chain link pattern. And we have synthetic layering over each toe box in these models. The 7s is a bit more prevalent and you could see it a little bit easier. Making our way to the midfoot construction and the upper on the Nike Metcon 6. So we have the mesh that goes all the way through. Then we have that slightly different heel construction back here. So we have more of this mesh material back here. We have an extended outsole wrap on the lateral side, then taking to the medial side. Pretty similar construction across the board with the outsole wrap and upper construction. Looking at the Nike Metcon 7, on the medial side, we have this huge rope guard. So this is a rubber layer on top of the extended outsole wrap that comes up. Then on the lateral side, we have Nike swoosh and an extended outsole layer that comes up. Once again, just like in the 6. Looking at the midfoot construction, on the Nike Metcon 6, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eyelets. The 6th eyelet is for lace lock, and we have 4 eyelets with Nike Flywire tech. On the Nike Metcon 7, we have 5 eyelets, and only the lateral 3 eyelets have the Nike Flywire. So a little bit of a different midfoot construction as a whole. And then also on the tongue, we have this lace lock mechanism on the 7, which obviously we do not have on the 6. And the tongues are both pretty thick. Overall, I think the tongue durability is great in these shoes compared to prior Nike Metcon models for forehead issues. But making our way to the midsole construction now, we have that Nike React foam in the Nike Metcon 7. In the 6, once again, we don't really have a midsole construction at all. We have these extended outsoles that wrap up, and that's pretty much it with each model. Making our way to the heel, we have that plastic heel clip on the Metcon 6. In my opinion, I think it's much more functional on this model compared to the 7, because when we look at the Metcon 7's heel construction, we have the plastic heel clip, but we also have this hyperlift layer, and the hyperlift actually sticks out further than this plastic heel clip. So like, to be honest, like, I don't know if they just put that in just to like have that little proprietary call out, but to be quite honest, I think if you're gonna get any action from the heel in regard to the Metcon 7's performance in handstand push-ups, it's gonna be from this hyperlift layer that protrudes a little bit further than this heel clip. Making our way to the outsoles. So once again, the outsoles are very different. In the Metcon 7, we have a fully reworked rubber outsole. We have grooves up here on the forefoot. That's what gives this shoe a very easy to break in feel and a very much more maneuverable feeling. So like if you put on the Metcon 7 compared to the 6, you'll be like, wow, this is way more maneuverable compared to the 6. Then we have that cutout back here on the heel that once again, I think gives this shoe like a similar outsole look compared to like what most weightlifting shoes have. Then on the Metcon 6, we have that standard rubber outsole throughout, pretty standard tread and traction. And then overall, guys, I think that's like the major construction callouts about these shoes. We talked about the insole differences, but once again, just for the sake of making sure I'm covering all my bases, in the Nike Metcon 6, we have that dual textured insole, very thick insole that comes out. In the Metcon 7, we have the thin insole. So pretty much just like your standard insole that you get with most cross training and training shoes in general. But if you have any questions on the construction differences in this breakdown, or if you have any thoughts on things that I might have missed, hit me in the comments below, because once again, there is so much going on with the Nike Metcon 7 compared to the 6. So before we take this video out, I do want to share my personal thoughts on which model I think you should go with if you are still on the fence. I think if you are a recreational lifter or CrossFitter that prioritizes a lot of athletic training, you like to do shorter runs, you like to do sprint work and plyos in your cross training shoes, then I would say look into the Nike Metcon 7. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily care about that aspect of your training and you are looking for a cross-training shoe to support like maximal lifting, then honestly, I would say the 6 is probably gonna be your best bet. Plus you get this additional insert, plus it is on sale now because with the Metcon 7's release, a lot of colorways in the 6 have gone down. So if you wanna save a little bit of money, the Metcon 6 is gonna be a really good bet. But across the board, like despite those really niche construction and performance asks, both of these shoes are pretty dang solid, and I think you can't really go wrong in either one. I do think there are so many differences with the Metcon 7 that you should consider if you are very used to the 6 and 5 and 4, etc. with the Nike Metcon line, and you like how those fit and feel. But overall, you can't really go wrong with either in my opinion, and it really depends on the context of your goals, needs, and preferences when selecting the model that would be best for you. All right, guys, that wraps up my comparison video of the Nike Metcon 7 and Nike Metcon 6. This has been a fun and exciting shoe to review and train in because it is so different from the 6 and 5 and 4 and all the other Nike Metcon models we've had to date. If you have any questions on either of these shoes or which you should go with, or my thoughts on which would be best for the context of your training, hit me in the comments below. And as always, guys, drop a like on the video, drop a subscribe on the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.